Hello. Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Clemons of The Atlantic. It's great to see you. How many of you want to save the world today? Yay. Okay, we're going to be speaking to the choir here today. We've got a lot of folks here that is. But I think we've got two wonderful global brand stranding operations here, great representatives from them. There always seems to be a bit of skepticism that some crowds have when it comes to big companies and doing good or saving the world. And Pia, I'd just like to start, talking about IKEA and why it has made one of its obsessions sustainability, dealing with climate change. What has changed inside you that's made this such a mission?
Good question, thank you. Not so much, actually, that has changed, because the vision of IKEA Group has been, since we were founded 75 years ago, to create a better everyday life for the many people. And having that vision really sets us out to work with sustainability, because we believe that you can't really have a better everyday life if you can't breathe the air that you have around you, if you can't drink the water, or if you can't be in a safe environment or provide for you and your family. So it comes very much back to the original start of the company and our vision of creating a better everyday life.
You touch so many people around the world in everything we do, including, my life and my world. Much of, IKEA is inside my home. How do you go about, and I think it's very important for many people out there in, technology and thinking about how do you get people hooked or get them engaged in behaviors that become constructive rather than destructive. How do you build literacy on things like sustainability with your customer base?
It's one of the most difficult things to do, I think, to really engage and work with consumers. But the starting point is understanding their true needs and the pain points they have in life at home. Because IKEA is a home furnishing company, so we work with life at home. And the starting point is always understanding what's going on in the daily life of all the people that we touch. And when you start with that, it's not per se that it needs to be about sustainability, but what are their needs? Do they want to spend less on the energy bill? Do they want to get solutions on how to sort their waste? Or are they concerned about sustainability and environment? And we can then provide solutions. So it's not so much about doing a massive education campaign and trying to convert people, but really more starting with what are the needs and dreams and what are the pain points.
Right.
And then some would call it sustainability, some will not.
Right. Lucas, let me ask you the same question, because many people don't think of Microsoft as being environmentally impactful as a firm, but you're also huge. You basically straddle the world in so many different ways, much like IKEA. So you're the first chief environmental officer, which I find interesting. We should note that Microsoft felt that it now needs one. So what are you trying to achieve? What needles are you trying to move?
Sure. I think Pia already spoke, to the major need that society has to address some of these fundamental challenges. I think at Microsoft, we see ourselves doing business kind of at the intersection of two unprecedented ages, really. The first is the information age. I mean, you only have to come to Web Summit and see 20,000 people or whatever it is all here talking about digital technologies and digital transformation. Microsoft helped build the architecture of that. But we're also doing business at a time, scientists refer to it as the Anthropocene or the Anthropocene, depending on your pronunciation, right? A time of exponentially negative impacts of human activities on Earth's natural systems. And as a company, we think that, history will ultimately judge today by the success that we have at deploying our technologies and tackling today's environmental challenges. And so environmental sustainability for Microsoft is nothing new. We've been investing in this for quite a long time. It's taken on new prominence, I think, for the organization with my role, with the rollout of new programs like our AI for Earth program, which is a 5-year, $50 million commitment to deploying our artificial intelligence technologies in the 4 areas of ag, water, biodiversity, and climate. we've been here for a long time, but we're looking to kind of double down on our bets in sustainability going forward. And that gets me to your point of, people might not think of Microsoft, this big kind of large technology company, as a big sustainability player. But just one, I think, example proves that that to be a misconception. I mean, just in the area of renewable energy procurement alone, we're one of the largest customers or purchasers of renewable energy in the world. Right? That says a lot about the success of our data centers, and it says a lot about the commitment that we have to ensure that our products are backed by sustainable business strategies.
Let me ask both of you, in this world of major commerce and customers, what are the hard choices that companies need to make when you're out there and you wanted to help move either other businesses outside your own and demonstrate what are the hard choices out there? Because it seems to me that what makes you both interesting is gravity didn't take you to do what you do. You built a program, you did a study, which you might want to talk about, climate action starts at home, that it's not happening on its own. So I'm interested in what are those inflection points that we need to collectively as a society to address rather than just waiting for good practices to come from somewhere else. Pia?
I think one thing is to imagine the future you want to have. And for us, it's quite easy because we have a vision of creating a better everyday life for the many people.
Right.
And of course, people choose to put different things in what a better life is. We have put that with a fair and equal society where everyone can prosper and where you have an environment that actually works for people, not against people, which means that we need to take responsibility. So I don't think there's a lot of hard choices because you need to decide what society do you want to be part of, what future do you want to be part of, and then we need to start building that future because future is not something that's going to happen to us. We are the ones creating the future, and it's with the decisions that we make here and now today.
And you polled, and I'm fascinated by this report that we can refer people, I think they can get on the web, Climate Action Starts at Home. Tell us about that briefly.
Yeah, we went out and talked to 14,000 people in 14 markets to understand what's their attitude to climate change. And what we saw is that 8 out of 10 actually understands and sees that climate change is connected to human activity. So yes, there might be some climate skeptics out there, but most part, people see the connection between our activities, our businesses, our society, the way we do things, and climate change. We also saw that about 2/3 are worried, especially young people and those with children. They really worry about what climate change will mean for them and their children. And we also saw that 9 out of 10 are willing to make changes, not radical changes. They're not going to change life at home and their daily routines or their aspiration for a better life dramatically. They don't want it to be inconvenient at a higher price or more difficult than the day-to-day. But they are definitely interested. And these are our customers, these are our employees. So there's a clear business imperative that if we want to side with the many, which we've set out that that's what we want to do, we need to listen. And this is what they're saying to us. And they also say they don't really know what a climate-friendly future would look like. They hear the media, they hear the news. It's about melting icebergs, storms, floods, scary stuff. But we need to help to paint that positive future. What would that look like? And how can my small actions actually contribute to that positive future? So we see a clear call for, please, companies, take action, do something.
Lucas, someone asked you the same question about how we make this real and the question of hard choices. And I'm not going to ask Pia the Sweden question or the Sweden and other Scandinavian countries, Denmark, Norway. But there seem to be things that are going on in certain parts of the world that are unbelievably great commitments on renewables, sustainability, and the country where you and I live in is just pretty sloppy about it. And I'm just interested in what do you think we need to do? I mean, the United States right now used to be a leader in this. I don't think we are today. But given all you know, you're sort of Wizard of Oz. You know everything, everything's doing. What do you think we can learn in terms of best practices from other parts of the world that we ought to incorporate, outside Bellevue?
Yeah, I think that, there's a big role governments play in this space, but I also just think that there's a lot of running room ahead for companies to go out and do what needs to be done on their own. I think if you just look at in the renewable energy space, sure, there's great things happening in some places that make it easier to operate than it is to operate in others, but that hasn't slowed us down in our ambitions to go out and do these things. I think you asked a question about what's hard about all of this, and I think that you can hem and haw and think about what's hard about incorporating sustainability into your business, but if you flip that around and you look at sustainability through the core lens of your business, through the lens of your core operating and procedures and your core competencies. At Microsoft, that's technology, right? Then it suddenly becomes super easy to embed this into everything that you do. So we have our AI for Earth program because we're an AI company, right? We are procuring renewable energy because it's the right thing to do for society, but it's also the right way to lock in stable, long-term, risk-averse pricing strategies to power the cloud, which powers much of society today, right? And so suddenly they're not sustainability decisions or choices anymore. They're business decisions and choices. And once you start getting into that space, I find the conversation just gets so much easier. And that also allows your organization to operate, to have a license to operate in these spaces where otherwise the winds might be blowing against you, is because you're not out there speaking on behalf of society. I don't know that that's necessarily the role for companies to play. You're speaking on behalf of what's good for your company, what's good for your investors, and what's good for your employees. And when you're in that space, as I said, you have a lot of running room ahead on the field. So yeah, that's...
Pia, do you welcome, I think about just the scale of IKEA, the amount of furniture you guys make. You have a big footprint in the world across everything you do. And I am sure just from talking to you and your team that as you look at the big picture of sustainability, you're there. But I guess the question I have is, as a member of the media or a stockholder or others who do this, what can companies do that they're not doing today to embrace more transparency on this subject? Because when you look across the board, even at your competitors, I have to tell you, it's not as transparent. Not everyone has a kind of enlightened sense of purpose there. We talk a lot about it at the Web Summit, purpose, 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 but there are a lot of places that are doing fine without purpose. And I'm wondering whether or not there ought to be more pathways for transparency on some of this that you both would advocate.
I'm hearing two questions, so I'll answer two questions. One, I think, is quite proven from lots of studies that companies that work on sustainability are doing well also financially. And then you could ask yourself, is that because companies that are doing well financially are more progressive and looking into future, and that's why also they're making are well sustainability-wise? I don't know. But there is a clear bottom line implication of being smart with your resources, listening to your customers, listening to your employees, and really tuning into what's going on in their day-to-day.
And that can be economically superior.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the questions. And the second one, and that's digital. Social media and transparency, you can't hide anymore. And yes, maybe there are some who are out there doing well now because no one has found out yet. Yeah. But social media, people will talk, people will share. If they find out, we know that it comes out. And I think keep on doing that. Share your thoughts on social media.
I was just going to say, yeah, I'll jump on the digital part there if you give me an opening. Yeah. Because the social media side of the digital economy is just one part of how transparency comes about. For companies that are progressive on this, the digitization allows us to monitor and model and ultimately manage our natural resource flows across the entire economy, and it makes it easier for companies like IKEA to track where everything's going and where they want everything to end up. And then, if you take on that digitization of your own sustainability kind of work stream within your company, and you're a large corporation like a Microsoft or IKEA, you also have this scale opportunity to lean on all of your downstream suppliers. It's something that we've been actively engaged in our devices business, for instance, where we're involved in the direct manufacturing of physical assets. And that's really where you get to have this impact, not just on what they do, but the transparency that they commit to as well. So we've been working really hard with our suppliers to get them to commit to completing things like the CDP, or the Climate Disclosure Project, annual report forms. And those are, an opportunity for us to take a leadership position, to provide transparency into our own business, but then to highly encourage as many of our associated the companies in our broader global ecosystem to follow our lead. And quite frankly, to learn from when they might be in a leadership position and take on some of those activities for ourselves.
So much of the environmental picture I learned from many people I've spoken to is about trying to curb waste, to look at the waste dimension, which is also when you have good information feedback, you have it. And just walking around many of the displays here, I see more and more startups and efforts in the blockchain area. And I'm just interested in whether either of you look at blockchain or any other kind of new platforms of credentialing or being able to monitor transactions, that may help crunch down waste, may help ease transactions and remove this. Whether you look at that as a significant part of the future equation on sustainability or not.
I definitely think that digital solutions helps us in many ways. One is, like you say, tracking and being more transparent, and blockchain is one.
Are you guys experimenting with blockchain?
Yes. But
experimenting early.
Experimenting. There's others maybe experimenting a bit more, but we are experimenting with blockchain, absolutely, and also in the sustainability space. But it's also platforms and meeting places and being curators and having people meet each other, where I think it's a combination of urbanization with more people closer together, and then digital solutions that makes it so much easier. And I think circular economy is one of the things where sharing economy is an outcome of all the digital solutions that we have today that we didn't have 5-10 years ago. So I think there's a lot of opportunities coming out of all these solutions.
Any quick, real short on?
Yeah, I would just say that, again, the digitization of all of these assets, of course, there's things like blockchain. We have a blockchain platform. But also just the foundations of machine learning and all the optimization stuff that we do. If you just look at our device supply chain or our device operations, what blows my mind at work every day is just how much work goes into each and every little step to reduce the packaging, to do everything, all the way down to, very sophisticated optimization algorithms for ensuring that we leave no, cubic centimeter unturned in how we pack devices on pallets for shipping, right? Everything comes down to minimizing waste and using our digital technologies and our platforms to drive that minimization.
So 1 minute each, talk to the audience, many of whom are out there starting companies or in big companies now. What is the most important thing you can tell them about the culture, getting the culture right, so that the commitments are real, and that an environmental office is not a fig leaf for bad behavior, but actually the company is genuinely committed to this, to sustainability on the fronts we've been talking about. Pia?
Well, depending on if it's a large company or if it's a startup, but if it's a startup, I would really encourage more people, even though it's growing, to start by understanding big societal problems and build your company not only for your own profit, but also for society's profit. So how can you, with digital solutions, if it's platform, if it's digital AI or blockchain, whatever it is, understand where are the big pain points in people's lives at home, or where we haven't really cracked the code yet, and then go together with others, because the problems we're facing, and now I sound a bit negative here in my last minute, but there's huge challenges we have out there. I don't think any company, if it's Microsoft or IKEA or anyone even bigger, that can solve this alone. We need to work together with academia, with NGOs, with companies, startups, to really solve this. So that would be my feedback. Work together.
Lucas?
So the last thing I'd say is just something that I've already said, which is that if you want your company to make a true impact in the sustainability space, ask what it is about your company that's special to the market, and then use whatever it is that's special to drive sustainability changes, i.e. look at sustainability through the lens of your core organizational competencies and put sustainability at the center of that. Don't put it out as this kind of hanging chad, since elections are coming up. Don't put that out as kind of a hanging chad in the organization. Put it central to the business. And then, Pia mentioned this already, listen, 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 and then act.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Lucas Joppa of Microsoft and Pia Heidenmark Cook of IKEA, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.